Hey everybody, David Gordon from TheaterMania here. It is Tuesday, May 5th, and I'm here with Brando Crawford, founder of Acting for a Cause, which is this really cool thing that you've just started, more or less, right?
Yeah, more or less. We just started it a few weeks ago.
And it's a series of online play reading series with like major celebrities.
That's right, yeah.
Play readings that you wouldn't expect. And it benefits Mount Sinai Chicago and other organizations.
That's right.
Just because we've never really met before, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to start Acting for a Cause.
Totally, David. Thanks again for having me. My background is in kind of two different fields. I am in arts education. My mom was an arts educator for years. She owns the language and music school in Oak Park, Illinois. But I've always had a passion for being on stage in front of a camera. And so I dropped out of high school to become an actor. That quickly, I realized that I was not, I don't know if it was, I had too much of like an ingrained narcissism to go through the audition process. And so I became a producer. And specifically, I wanted to make my mission to produce works where charity and performance kind of intertwine.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the most well-known projects I was a part of, I collaborated heavily with, there was a band called Rise Against that did a music video called Make It Stop, which has 33 million views to date. And that was a collaboration with Dan Savage and the It Gets Better project.
Oh, cool.
Which is very special. And then also Equity Fights AIDS and Broadway Cares. I was heavily involved in 2014 as an organizer for it was a huge campaign through Broadway in Chicago. And so that's what I kind of did before this.
Awesome. Tell me about when you started Acting for a Cause. And I should say, people watching at home, if you have questions for Brando, pop them in the comments. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
Tell me when you decided to start Acting for a Cause.
Yeah, David. So the first day of the quarantine, I mean, like very anxious, very nervous about what the future might lie financially, especially for some of the students of my mother. And in a moment of kind of like, I was reading through her emails and I was like, oh, all these students are going through financial issues. She primarily caters for the west side of Chicago, where there's a lot of low income families. They benefit off of nonprofits, and these nonprofits were dropping out as donors. And so I thought, I should do something to help the situation as a whole. Lucante Dance Studio, Hubbard Street, closed down permanently. These were moments that were scary to me. And so what I decided to do was I did what every anxious person does, and I went to Instagram to watch my favorite actors' stories. Yeah. And I realized everyone was getting sent home. So I thought, what if I did a fundraiser that involved actors in some way, gave them a creative outlet, and since I'm not doing anything this week, why don't I just start it today? And I started cold calling publicists and agents. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. And then it took off. We got, I was used to it. I was an actor, David, for 3 years. For every 100 no's, there's a yes. And I knew that pattern. And so I called every single publicist and emailed every single publicist regarding every single actor I could think of that would be good for this first reading, which was Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. And surprisingly, I realized we were getting a lot more yeses than no's. We got the 4 actors that I wanted to get. We got 3 of them right off the bat, my top #1 choices. Which were Alex Wolff, Justice Smith, and Ali Carvalho from Disney's Moana. And then it took off. I mean, then suddenly Alex Wolff was like, well, my good friend Florence Pugh, Academy Award nominee, would love to do a reading with you. And I said, well, okay, let's do one then. Let's make it into a series. And it was just this kind of like domino effect. We did Hamlet with Brandon Flynn, Willa Fitzgerald. We did Romeo and Juliet with Margaret Qualley and David Cornsweet on the day of the release of Ryan Murphy's Hollywood.
I saw that.
It's insane. And now, it's so cool because, I was kind of this obscure little producer in Chicago, and I'm working with these names that, only one producer could dream of working. I'm 24.
Right.
And the most beautiful aspect is that what unified us was the impact that we wanted to make. And I think that had I not been driven by such a personal cause, I wouldn't have acted as quickly. And if I didn't act as quickly, I wouldn't have been ahead of kind of the curve being able to make an impact during the quarantine, because we're about like 3/4 of the way through, according to most predictions.
Yeah.
So if I hadn't acted that first week, we wouldn't have been able to do the project, or B, make as much impact as we have.
I'm looking. It's funny. My eyes are going to dart for a second because I'm looking at the website and I'm looking at all the actors that you've had do these movies. And it's like, I mean, the fact that you just cold called publicists and asked people to do it is awesome. Like, props to you for that.
Thank you.
That's something that a lot of people would be too scared to do. So that's like that's like great tenacity. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Hearing stuff like that. But also, it's a testament to the fact that people will hear this stuff and they're like, oh, you're doing a reading benefiting this. Sure, I'll do it. And they have a good time, and they tell their friends, and it like becomes a web of people that you can then go out to and be like, hey, you want to do a reading of This Is Our Youth?
Yeah, it's a crazy chain reaction. And it's like, you know, just having the right intentions and trying your best to be a good person goes a long way. Once, you know, we're in the room together, and in this case, in the Zoom call, you know, just getting along. Alex Wolf and I, we really clicked. You know, I have a feeling that we're going to be working together for a while. David Cornsweet was one of those people. Ali Cravalho. You know, Brandon Flynn just DM'd me on Instagram to be a part of the series. I didn't even have to reach out to him. He's an amazing star from 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
He's bringing in Hari Neff, who's an amazing icon, in my opinion. I think an icon for our generation that, you know, people will be talking about hundreds of years from now. And it's all about, you know, just because we got along, and they liked the way that we were approaching the play readings. It was a collaborative thing. While I'm directing the play readings, a lot of it is just having a conversation with the actors of how they want to portray an even tone and how we want to, you know, delve into these plays. And we're doing it in a way that has low expectations because we only have 1 week to put them together. But, you know, there's also a fun thing that, you know, none of us have any distractions. We can focus completely on these play readings and just, you know, like Hamlet was heavy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're not exactly doing like the lightest, you know, you're not exactly doing a Neil Simon or something here. You're doing Noel, your publicist, was telling me that you're trying to do a Diary of Anne Frank.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, well, so one of the most interesting things, it was much harder to get rights than actors.
Oh, yeah.
So that's its own process. I've learned, you know, quite a bit through this experience. One of the things is that the folks who were dealing with the rights didn't kind of know what direction we were going in with the quarantine and how they would have to change the rules and regulations. So there was a little bubble for a minute where they were a little bit more lax with their regulations, which quickly tightened up.
Right.
I think that they kind of encouraged me to turn towards great works and great classics in the public domain.
Yeah, which is smart.
And then I thought, you know, if we're attracting actors and we're also attracting audience members, we should do recognizable works.
Yeah.
So that's why we went with Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet and Oscar Wilde. And this Friday, we're actually going to be doing Pride and Prejudice. It's going to be cool. Yeah, very cool cast. It's actually, I might even say it's our biggest cast yet in terms of the names that we have involved.
Can you say? Are you willing to say?
Yeah, I'll mention one,
Sure.
I'll mention 2 names, but I won't mention more just because there might be a press release and we're doing it as a package. But in terms of like Instagram followers, collective, it's a weird way to measure things, and I kind of like it. But Jacob Elordi from Euphoria, which is one of my favorites. I binged Euphoria 3 times. I can't say that for any series. So Jacob is going to be playing Mr. Darcy. I can say, yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting. And then one other name I'll toss out there. I won't say what role, but Kat McNamara.
Oh.
Several great shows. She's involved as well. We've been talking to her for a while about a reading. She was another one who, you know, another lucky thing is we've developed a great relationship with certain agents and certain publicists. So right. Kevin at CAA represented Alex, who was in the first reading, and Alex raved about us. And then we got Maddie Brewer through him from Handmaid's Tale. Now Kat. I have a really good feeling about some of these individuals who, you know, they seem to like the vibe of our project, and they're the ones pushing it forward. How do you direct a reading over Zoom? I know a lot of people are thinking about that now, that this is the way of the world. You know, it's interesting. I'm going to say something that doesn't sound very encouraging, but I do think that we're gonna be doing live theater again pretty soon. I don't know if Zoom readings will be a thing in the next 3 weeks. But if it is, then one of the things is that part of what makes it work is that nothing else is working right now.
Right.
So everyone is kind of willing to suspend disbelief for a second and imagine the characters on the screen. There's little details like how close you are to the camera versus how far you are. And conveying emotion, I think one of the benefits of this is that film actors are comfortable with doing theater in this setting because it's similar to film and they can control their emotions in a similar way. Theater and film acting are so different.
Yeah.
And I would say that acting over Zoom is more similar to acting for a TV show than acting for, on Broadway or on the West End.
Yeah, I've noticed that actually. It's funny. Tell me about the charities that you guys work with and who you're donating funds to. Because I feel like that's the most important part of this whole thing.
It absolutely is. I mean, this is the part where I can get pretty passionate. So because it's so personal to me, I grew up in a situation of neglect and abuse, and for me, arts programs were the escape. I mean, in a very literal sense, if I didn't have arts programs to go to, I would have been stuck at home. And being stuck at home sucked. I mean, and by sucked, I mean that was a hell. And so, the excuse was Tech Week. The excuse was, so when I hear about arts programs shutting down, I think about, specifically individuals who rely on those programs for in a much deeper way. Not just, the fact that they love the arts or the arts as an outlet. I think it's a very literal savior figure. So from the beginning, we wanted to raise money for arts. We eventually partnered with the National Endowment for the Arts, which is, go big or go home. We went with the biggest, basically the organization that is controlled by the government. And we went to them and said, how can we partner with you? How can we collaborate on this? They said, we'd love to. And the best way to do this would be either to choose individual theaters or go and connect with the EIF, the Entertainment Industry Foundation. So I did a little bit of research. The EIF was founded by Warner Brothers and Humphrey Bogart and all these. So what's so cool is that I basically noticed, 70 years ago, or a little bit longer than that, we had stars that had the same spirit of activism that our current generation has. I feel like our generation of kind of in between Gen Z and millennial, you see, if you go to the Instagram bio, I would say 4 out of 5 times, a well-known actor will have SaveTheChildren.org or some sort of foundation. And oftentimes they're using their platform to advocate for organizations. I think it's really cool because now in partnering with the EIF, and it's going to be a partnership that goes beyond acting for a cause. We do plan on actually going to Capitol Hill and doing some activities there in terms of encouraging arts education after this, which is very cool. And this was, starting acting for a cause was a big open door for me to be involved in that. But the EIF supports individual programs, arts programs, and specifically their priority is consistency, so that they're not just a one-time opera program for a 14-year-old, but that someone can be in a theater or arts program or music lessons or language lessons from 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, all the way through high school. So it's a constant for them. That's the most important aspect, in my opinion. I don't like the randomness of some organizations that are just oh, you know what, let's form a pop-up class for 14-year-olds, because that's kind of disengaging. And I mean, the heart is in the right place, but it's not organized in a way that I think will be as optimal or effective.
Yeah.
And then, the fact that EIF initially was started by these actors, they basically told me that they've been distant from actors and well-known kind of celebrity types for some time. They've been mainly almost in the corporate sector. And so they felt like this might be an opportunity to bring it back. And, I kind of imagine who's the Humphrey Bogart of our generation, who's Joan Crawford, who's the Warner Brothers. We don't kind of know yet. I mean, my generation we're in our 20s, we're doing work, we're out there producing, directing, and mainly, all these actors participating. But I'd love to spend a good amount of time drawing these actors into more projects like this. All these actors want to kind of repeat and do more work with us. So I'm very excited about moving forward in this way.
It's really cool. Somebody already suggested you should do Playboy of the Western World.
What is this?
The Playboy of the Western world.
Oh yeah, ooh, maybe we should.
Yeah. What else is on your list? Like, what is for the immediate future? What do you want to do? What are you gonna present? I'm gonna shoo my cat out of the way.
So before I explain what we're going to present, I definitely played up the arts education side of what we were doing, but I forgot to mention one thing. You mentioned the hospital, Mount Sinai. So that is, as we're donating to the EIF, now everything goes to the EIF, they're in turn donating 50% to Mount Sinai Hospital in Chicago. Just briefly, what's so special about that organization? So number one, I feel like if we just give all our money to arts education, it would be slightly tone deaf because obviously there's people suffering in a much more serious and immediate way right now. So just briefly, in that specific hospital, 75% of all COVID-19 cases in Chicago are from low income and minority backgrounds. That's been a problem. Mount Sinai is dealing with, I believe the majority, 90% of those cases. So that's just a side note. It's very important. Those are the two organizations that are basically benefiting from this. So I just wanted to kind of conclude that topic before I was going to have to come back to it later and I wouldn't have remembered.
Sure.
So David, you asked what plays we were planning on doing. So half of me is kind of dipping into the public domain and Pride and Prejudice by, Jane Eyre. I'd like to do maybe even Dracula or Frankenstein, something a little bit more horror-y. Agatha Christie and whodunits.
I would imagine those are really good over a platform like this.
I definitely am leaning towards those. The other plays that we're looking at, there's certain plays where, I was thinking about there's certain screenplays that would work really well. John Hughes screenplays, I think, translate really well to readings. There was a wonderful reading series done by Reitman where they did Breakfast Club. And so I'm still trying to chip away. I think it's a little bit tougher with screenplays. Yeah. The Spotless Mind is another great one where we've gotten some response. Jason Reitman's work as well. But in terms of some Broadway plays that are recent, one excellent response was I spoke directly with Lisa D'Amour, who wrote Detroit and Airline Highway. And we are, I think, 90% of the way there to do Airline Highway, which I really am passionate about. Yeah,
that's ambitious.
It's ambitious. It's a huge cast. I've got some interest from repeat performers. Hari Neff is into doing it. Ronan Rubinstein. And then we're thinking about, who else would be a good addition to that cast. I grew up on Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is in Chicago. And so Tracy Letts is another contender. We obviously did Kenneth Lonergan, who premiered This Is Our Youth here in Chicago before going to Broadway. So, if they did it at Steppenwolf, there's a chance I'm probably looking into it. Airline
Highway is, it's funny. I can't wait for that one if that actually pans out.
Yeah.
That's a play I always felt like never got its due in New York. I don't think New York really knew how to interpret that play.
I agree. I think that it's highly underrated. I think that people were trying to draw comparisons to Detroit, or even to August Osage County, because Steppenwolf that was their hit, and they were thinking, they're trying to do a repeat of what they did with Tracy Letts, but it wasn't. Airline Highway was it's a very naturalistic picture of humanity, and I think that people, because they expected something different, something more like Steppenwolf intense, they weren't prepared for Airline Highway, which is kind of like, I don't know, just like floating on a lazy river.
Yeah.
And by the end of the whole thing, if you come in without any expectations with this tabula rasa, I do think it's really mind blowing, and kind of, I don't know, it just it shaped me in a weird way, and the way that I viewed life. It was a deeply profound play when I watched it. I watched it more than once.
Who are your dream collaborators?
Dream collaborators. Wow. So
who are the actors that you want to do that you want to be in these shows?
I want to be in these shows. Okay, so dream collaborators. I would love to get Timothée Chalamet and Saoirse Ronan for something, because I love their chemistry on screen together. Some people who I've talked to have said it's overplayed. Other people get really excited when I say those names. You decide if you're the listener. I think that, so I learned something. There was one actress who I really wanted for a reading, and I ended up working with her. And then she was kind of, slightly uninvested from the project compared to other actors like David Cornsweet that posted every 5 minutes. I was surprised he was posting about us more than Hollywood at one point, on the release day of Hollywood. So, for me, at the end of the day, I'm more passionate about if I get to work with an actor that's passionate about the project, I can work with anyone as long as they really love what we're doing and they're very invested. I care about that a lot more than who my dream actors are. But like I said, there are some names that if these people were invested in the project and were interested, Chalamet, Saoirse Ronan, Helen Mirren. She's not part of Young Hollywood, but I dream to work with her one day. I think Gal Gadot is an amazing actress that I'm excited about. I'm pulling from all these different areas, but I just get very excited about certain actors. I did actually speak to this actress, and I know that she's having some schedule issues because she's her Netflix series Space Force is being released pretty soon. But Diana Silvers, who's with the same PR team as me, I think that when she had a conversation with me about this project, I thought she sounded very excited and her tone was in the right place, and I'm excited about her career. I think that she's going to be really cool. I could probably go on and on and on. I know a lot of actors.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Tell us where we can find Acting for a Cause online, social media. People can donate and watch.
Yeah, totally. So if you all go to actingforacause.org, that's where you can make donations, view past plays. Vice versa, if you wanted to go directly to YouTube, which is where we live stream, we have all of our readings on a playlist, Acting for a Cause. You just search Acting for a Cause, you'll get our channel with everything. Please subscribe and then visit and make a donation, which, the YouTube page also has, everything's cross-posted. And then if you're interested in the behind the scenes, I overshare, and you can go to @Professor Brando on Instagram, which is, that's going to be the best resource for everything Acting for a Cause, and everything that we're producing on the side. There's a screenplay that I have that will be produced. There's a play on the West End that is currently in the works, which is actually both of them directly connected to the success of Acting for a Cause. And then if you wanted to just go directly and follow Acting for a Cause, it's Acting for a Cause. Where am I? There we go. For a Cause on Instagram. So Acting for a Cause.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Thank you so much for being so gracious to have me on your screen. And I look forward to more of your interviews. You're really the best. I loved watching what I've watched so far.
Thank you. Speaking of, we are back tomorrow, 2 o'clock, with Ariel Jacobs from Aladdin and Wicked and In the Heights. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Bye, Brenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. See you.
Bye.